It's Friday, January 26th, and it was damn near 80 degrees outside today. Literally, this time last week, we had snow on the ground. Make it make sense. Crazy, I know, right? At first, I thought this was a VA thing. But I got people that live in Texas that are like, yo, it was just 37 degrees and now it's 74 degrees. Don't try to tell me global warming isn't real, okay? It's not supposed to be 76 degrees in January. It's not. When I grew up, when I was a kid, it was never 76 degrees in January. It wasn't 70 degrees in February. Anyway, I digress. You're locked into the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 392nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday to you all out there. It has been a gorgeous day, as I've mentioned, from a weather standpoint. And the day started very slow for me. I went down a couple of black holes. That's never a good thing for me. You can waste hours at a time when you go down black holes. Now, they weren't unproductive black holes, per se. I did get some things done, but that wasn't the goal and it wasn't the intent at that time. And so I had to refocus, redirect. I was able to do that successfully. Then the nap monster came and tapped me on the shoulder. It was like, hey, bro, you want a nap? And I was like, ooh, a nap sounds really good right now. And then my worker brain was like, bro, seriously, a nap today with all the shit we got to do? And you wanted to waste a couple of hours earlier in the day? Hell no, we don't have a nap in us today. And I was like, nap monster. Worker guy said, no, man, sorry. He's like, all right, your loss. So here we are, chopping it up today, man. Feeling good, too. Feeling really good because there's a lot to get to. 3 new hires in the NFL. We started with 8 openings as the coaching carousel got underway. We're now down to 2 openings left. Remember, we had the Patriots immediately make a hire as they got rid of Bill Belichick or moved on from Bill Belichick and hired Gerard Mayo. The Raiders did the right thing, okay? Like Spike Lee, they did the right thing and removed the interim title from Antonio Pierce's label and title and made him the permanent head coach of the Vegas Raiders. The Tennessee Titans surprised everybody by hiring Brian Callahan, offensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see what he's able to get done in Tennessee. So those 3 were already done. And then in quick succession, we got Jim Harbaugh. We talked about this on the Tuesday podcast that was imminent. It was just a matter of dotting I's and crossing T's. Well, they got all of those things out of the way, and he is now the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. So he's there. We're going to talk about his arrival in LA and what that means for the Chargers and the winners and losers from that situation. Not too long thereafter, we got the news that the Carolina Panthers were going to hire former Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales as their new head coach. So that was sort of a surprise, but if you're someone like myself, not a surprise at all. We'll talk about that here in a second and the winners and losers from that ordeal there. So the Panthers not only signed Dave Canales to be their new head coach, but give him a 6-year deal, which usually means that the ownership group realizes that it's a rebuild and it's going to take time. I find that very amusing, knowing who their owner is. We'll talk about that again, as I mentioned, here in a bit. And then lastly, Raheem Morris kind of came out of nowhere and stole that Atlanta Falcons job away from Bill Belichick. Now, we were hearing reports that Belichick to the Falcons was cooling off considerably and that he was no longer the lead horse. It kind of felt like Belichick wanted too much. And we're going to talk about that because I have some takes on that. And I kind of figured this would happen, right? And I talked about this when Belichick was in the process of trying to figure it out with New England and whether they were going to part ways mutually. And I said, this kind of thing could happen. We'll discuss that when we get to Raheem Morris. But he is now the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I actually think that's a great fit for Raheem Morris and what he brings to the table. And so we'll talk about the winners and the losers from that hire as well. So 3 more hires, now 2 to go. The only 2 openings that remain in the NFL in terms of head coaching vacancies are the Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see what both of those teams decide to do. Both have already come out and put out statements that have said they will not make a hire until after Sunday's championship games. So again, assuming that they want to talk to some of the coordinators that are involved in those games, nothing will be done with those teams. Kind of feel like Washington's decision is imminent, sort of like the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. But you're going to have to wait until everything kind of takes place, dust settles, smokes clears, and then I think they'll ultimately get their guy. But we'll see what Seattle does. They're pretty interesting because much like Atlanta, they've interviewed just about everybody under the sun, and they still haven't made a decision. So maybe they're waiting for someone who is still coaching in championship weekend or Sunday in particular. So we'll get to championship Sunday, and we'll break down those 2 games. Preview and predict. Last week, we went a perfect 4-0 after having a nasty start to the postseason with the 6 games. What did we do in Wild Card Weekend? Did we go 3-3 in Wild Card Weekend? Let's see. The first game was Houston. Got that one wrong. The second game was we had 3 doubleheaders. So that's how I need to approach this. So the second game was Chiefs and Dolphins on Saturday night. Got that one right. The kickoff Sunday was Dallas. Got that one wrong. I didn't have the balls to pull the trigger there. Didn't expect Dallas to lose, but I knew it could be very interesting if they didn't get to Jordan Love, but I got that one wrong. The Bills got that one right. What was the nightcap? Oh, Lions got that one right. And then, 3-3 because I didn't get the Eagles. I didn't have I thought the Eagles could lose that game. I just didn't have the balls to pick Tampa Bay because I didn't think Baker Mayfield would be healthy enough. He was plenty healthy, and they got it done. So I went 3-3. Then I went 4-0 last week. So I'm 7-3 in the postseason. We'll try to see if we can't make it a nice, solid 11-3 throughout the postseason with my picks. Or excuse me, 9-3. Only 2 games after Sunday's action. So we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But let's get to the Gem Droppin Session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. It ain't even summertime and people starting to wild out. I know y'all saw the little beef between Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion. And so we getting some rap beef going, you know what I'm saying, over the weekend, getting that cooked up a little bit, chopping that up. That's nice. Yeah, with a little sprinkle of Drake on top. That's some good stuff right there. So it's not even summer. It just got hot for a couple of days, right? Yesterday was a nice day today, and people already don't know how to act. Damn shame. Let's jump into it, though. So I want to start by talking about the winners and losers from the 3 hires that I just spoke about. And because someone is hired, that means there's a good part of it and you know where they're going and the excitement, and then there's the people that you left in your wake of leaving and all of that is encapsulated. So let's talk about winners and losers from all 3 of these hires. We're going to go in chronological order in the way that they occurred. So we're going to start with Jim Harbaugh making it official with the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, the first winner, we'll start with the winners with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. The first winner is the Los Angeles Chargers fans. They were so excited, similar to how we are and how we want Ben Johnson and how we'll be when Ben Johnson is officially locked up by Washington. We'll be very excited. This is a fan base that has wanted an identity for a very long time. And to me, that is the biggest thing that comes with getting Jim Harbaugh is you now have an identity, a guy that's going to come in there and he's going to establish what Los Angeles Chargers football is all about. It felt like since Justin Herbert got there, because before Herbert, when there was a Phillip Rivers in San Diego, you knew that team lived and died by the arm of 17, right? You know, there were times where there was LaDainian Tomlinson to hand the ball off to and things of that nature, but they were going to go as far as 17 took them, right? It seemed like they wanted to continue that with Justin Herbert, but they never really gave him an opportunity to win consistently with the way that they were calling plays offensively. And then even when the offense was clicking and scoring, the defense wasn't very good, right? So there still wasn't an identity. What are we getting week to week from the defense? What are we getting week to week from the offense? Are we going to run it this week? Hey, they can't stop the run. Doesn't matter. We're still going to have Justin sling it 42 times. Like, that's the stuff that drove Chargers fans crazy. And then when you add into the mix, you don't know what you're getting from your offense. You don't know what you're getting from your defense. And you don't know what you're getting from your head coach. Is he going to go for it at his own 29-yard line? Is he going to go for it on 4th and 2 from midfield? Is he going to go for it on 4th and 4 inside the red zone? We don't know, because this guy's all over the damn place. He came into the league to Brandon Staley going for it every time you turned around, and then he caught flack, and then he backed off. If that's who you are, remain true to who you are, right? And whatever happens, happens. You live with the results. Chargers fans are elated because one thing we can say about Jim Harbaugh, everywhere he's gone, he's won. And what he's going to do is he's going to establish a run game and a physicality that they haven't seen in Los Angeles probably since LaDainian Tomlinson was an MVP candidate, right? Did he win the MVP? He might have won the MVP one year when he scored like 8 million touchdowns in one season. Whatever the case may be, they haven't had a level of physicality up front in the trenches since LT was in his prime. And they're going to get back to that, because if it's one thing you know Jim Harbaugh is going to do, he's going to run the football. And so that's going to open up things for Justin Herbert, which leads me to my next winner, Justin Herbert, right? I mean, I don't know if there's a bigger winner in all of this than Justin Herbert, because he's had to deal with a lot of change. He's had to deal with a lot of inconsistencies in his young NFL career, but he's been the one bright spot for, along with Keenan Allen. I shouldn't say he was the lone bright spot. Keenan Allen has been outstanding when he's been healthy. They've got players, right? Derwin James, Joey Bosa, et cetera, but a lot of those guys have been banged up and inconsistent. Herbert's been one of the few guys that has been pretty consistent, and he's had his times, his moments. This year with the finger, and he wasn't always at his best, but at the end of the day, Herbert is a top 7, probably a top 7. Let's not get crazy. He's a top 10 quarterback in this league, probably top 7 if we were sitting down making a list. But he's one of the best quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the NFL. And all he needs is direction. All he needs is a plan. He's going to get that with Jim Harbaugh. And one thing we can always say about Harbaugh, he's never left a quarterback in a worse situation than he met him. Andrew Luck, if you think about all the quarterbacks that Jim Harbaugh has touched in his career, they've gone on to be very successful for their standards, right? Think about Josh Johnson at the University of San Diego, right? Think about Andrew Luck at Stanford. Think about Colin Kaepernick. Hell, even Alex Smith, who he turned into a winner. When everybody thought Alex Smith was a bust of a first overall pick and a loser, he turned him into a winner, got him to an NFC championship game, right? Took Colin Kaepernick, took him to a Super Bowl, made Colin Kaepernick a household name, right? Think about what he did for J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. Like, this is all the guy does, is he turns quarterbacks into winners. Justin Herbert may be up next in that process. So he's a massive winner in this whole ordeal. Losers with Jim Harbaugh heading to Los Angeles to be the next head coach of the Chargers. The biggest loser in all of this is probably the University of Michigan. Yep, there was scandal and there was all kinds of turmoil, but Harbaugh bought something to Michigan that didn't exist. He brought something to Ann Arbor that was not there before he got there. And that was the ability to beat Ohio State. And that was a national championship that they hadn't won in almost 3 decades. So you can say what you want about Harbaugh's end to his tenure in Ann Arbor and how it was filled with all kinds of controversy. But what they ultimately did was they built a beast of a program. He left it in a much better standing than when he found it. They have beaten Ohio State now, what, 3 years in a row? If I'm not mistaken. Who's the last coach to do that? Bo Schembechler? Like who's beating Ohio State 3 years in a row at Michigan? Lloyd Carr wasn't doing it. Brady Hoke wasn't doing it. Who's the last coach to do it? I don't know. I just know he did it. And he also brought home a national championship to add to the mantle. So the first time since what, 97? So again, they're going to miss Jim Harbaugh. And they've got some good members of that staff that are remaining, that are ready to step in that role, but they're not Jim Harbaugh. They're not going to be the recruiter that Jim Harbaugh was, and they're not going to be able to get the same level of talent, and they're not going to be able to get the most out of that talent. So good luck to the University of Michigan. Just know you had a run. We'll see if it continues, but you had a run, and it was fun. The next loser is the entire AFC West division. That's right. The Chiefs, the Raiders, the Broncos, you all lose because Jim Harbaugh is a winner. And with him coming into that division, the Chargers get infinitely better. And by them getting better, it means you get worse. Because if you were sweeping the Chargers before, you're not sweeping them anymore. If you were splitting with the Chargers before, you're probably getting swept now. It's going to change. And for Kansas City, you're going to have to fight tooth and nail for this division. If you have another season like you did this year, next year, you're probably not going to win the AFC West for the first time in like 6 or 7 years. That's the impact of a Jim Harbaugh. So, yeah, that whole division is really pissed off right now at the fact that Jim Harbaugh is now in that division as the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. And then lastly, every Chargers player on the roster not named Justin Herbert is a massive loser in this. Jim Harbaugh. I've likened Jim Harbaugh to Larry Brown in that he wears thin on his players very quickly. To me, Harbaugh's coaching style is made for college football. He's made for collegiate sports because the roster turns over every 3 or 4 years in college. The message doesn't get stale. And even though you're wearing thin on these players and you're working them very hard and you're grinding them, they're going to move on. And the next group is going to come in there and you can do it all over again. And you rinse, right? You wash, you rinse, you cycle, you repeat, you wash, you rinse, you cycle, and you repeat, and you keep going, right? It doesn't get old. The message doesn't get stale. Who has it better than us? Nobody. All of that is great because these guys never heard it before, right? Well, that's not how it works in the NFL. And you talk to any 49ers player that played under Harbaugh, and they'll tell you, yeah, he was kind of a dick. And we didn't have a lot of fun. We won, didn't win a Super Bowl, but we didn't have the most fun. He wasn't the best coach to play for. He was kind of demanding, but hey, winning trumps all. And when you're winning, you take that. But as soon as he left, it was like Debo, right? Nobody had one bad thing to say about him when he was there. But as soon as he left, they was talking again, right? Everybody was quiet when he was in San Francisco. As soon as he left, Hey, I'll be talking again. Chargers players, good luck. You're going to need it. Hey, you're going to win, though. That's a good thing. On to Dave Canales being the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Let me start by saying this. I felt this one in my soul. This one hit me all the way down in my spirit, right? Down in the deepest depths of my soul. Because this felt so Dan Snyder-ish hiring Jay Gruden. And I told the Washington fan base that last night on the show, that this hire reminded me so much of when Washington hired Jay Gruden. The similarities are striking, right? I want to start by saying, I think I already mentioned this on the last podcast episode, but them hiring or promoting Dan Morgan, the GM, what did you think was going to happen, right? I mean, who were they actually going to get? What GM that's an assistant GM or director of player personnel or whatever their title is that has a bright future? What guy in his right mind, or female for that matter, in their right mind would take the Carolina Panthers GM job? Who would touch that with a 10-foot pole? Nobody. So you know what you have to do in that situation? You have to promote from within, because that's the only person that's going to take the job. And you don't want to look like a dumbass, and you don't want to look like your job is this, contagious, toxic job. And you don't want to look like you're desperate and needy. So what do? You promote from within, and you say, hey, we got the guy we wanted. No, you didn't. But that's good for Dan Morgan, right? He's been a good soldier for a very long time. And hopefully he does well with the opportunity. But them hiring Dave Canales felt like when Washington hired Jay Gruden, and it was a very similar situation all the way around. So we just ran off a Super Bowl winning head coach, two-time Super Bowl winning head coach in Mike Shanahan, with the shenanigans of our, ridiculous owner, Dan Snyder. And he chose the quarterback over the coaches, and everybody reminds us at every turn that Washington had now 5 coaches that were assistants on that 2013 staff, with Raheem Morris being hired by Atlanta. That's now 5 coaches off of that famed 2013 Washington Redskins staff that went 3-13. We know. Thanks for reminding us again. However, you run off that 2-time winning Super Bowl head coach, and nobody wants your job. It's just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And finally, you realize we're about to look like some dumbasses. We got to do something. We got this quarterback that we spent the number 2 overall pick on. We traded up, spent massive draft capital on this guy. We need him to work out. So let's go get a young offensive mind that has done some good work with a quarterback that most people didn't expect to have a great career, and see if he can do the same thing for our guy. That's what Jay Gruden was at the time. Andy Dalton, 2nd-round pick out of TCU, wasn't supposed to be all that great, and Jay Gruden's doing wonders with him. So we hired Jay Gruden because nobody wants our job. We need to fix Robert Griffin III. Somebody's got to fix him. He's broken. This offensive guy just got Andy Dalton to play excellent football. Let's go get him. Nobody else is hiring him. So he's going to take our job. So we don't look desperate, and we get a young offensive-minded guy. It fits. It all looks great. Panthers spent all this draft capital, just like Washington did on Robert Griffin III, on Bryce Young. Want in return on their investment, just like Washington did with Robert Griffin III. He's broken right now after a horrible rookie season. You need to instill confidence in him. So you go out and get a guy that took a broken product in Baker Mayfield and shined him up and had him set career highs across the board, win a playoff game, and reinvigorated his career. Well, hell, if he can do that for Baker Mayfield, he can do that for Bryce Young. Yeah, let's go get him. Nobody else is hiring Dave Canales. Which leads me to my first winner, Dave Canales. Dave Canales wasn't getting a job this coaching cycle. He didn't even have another interview. Nobody interviewed Dave Canales but the Carolina Panthers. Now, I'm not telling you he's not a worthy candidate. He might have went in there and smashed that interview and wowed them, and they go, oh my God, this is an impressive guy. He's ready for an opportunity. Just like when the Bucs interviewed him when he came from Seattle and they were wowed and he was ready for the opportunity, and look what he did with it. He could be the perfect hire for them. Who knows? I just know this. Nobody else was on Dave Canales. He wasn't getting a job, just like Jay Gruden wasn't getting a job back in 2014 when Washington hired him. Dave Canales wasn't getting a job in 2024, a decade later. But the Panthers really didn't have many options. Mike Vrabel wasn't going to take their job. Bill Belichick wasn't going to take their job. Raheem Morris wasn't going to take their job. Dan Quinn wasn't going to take their job. Brian Callahan may have taken their job, but he got the Titans job first. Bobby Slowick isn't going to take their job. And I'm telling you right now, Ben Johnson ain't taking their job, and they knew it. Got to do something. So they did something. Good for Dave Canales. 6-year deal, too. Even if he fires you after 2 years, you still on the books for 4 more years, bro. Get your bread. That shit is in the oven for 6 years. Get your bread, man. Hopefully you are able to make that contract stick and get another one and prove people wrong that you were ready for this opportunity. Good luck, man. You're going to need it. And then the other winner is Bryce Young. He needs a coordinator that's going to do the things that Dave Canales did for Baker Mayfield last year. Now, look, I'm not telling you that Dave Canales' system was foolproof last year. It wasn't. The Buccaneers were the worst rush team in football last year before Canales took over. They were the worst rush team this year. The biggest difference was he never stopped trying to run the football. And that's what's going to help Bryce Young, is that he's going to run the football. Don't know if it's going to work or not. Don't know if it's going to take any of the pressure off of Bryce. Hopefully the Panthers are much better at running the ball than the Bucs were. But that doesn't stop him from running it. That doesn't stop him from trying. So that's a good thing. But in saying that, Bryce rarely got under center this past year. You're going to get under center with Dave Canales. It's going to vary the run game. It's going to give you better looks. It's going to give you more open windows to throw into. It's a really good quarterback-friendly system for Bryce Young, a young quarterback that needs a pick-me-up right now. I think Canales could be the best thing that happened for him in this particular situation. We'll see. I like the pairing, though. You go to the biggest losers, and without question, the biggest loser in all of this is Baker Mayfield. I actually feel bad for him because Bake has never had 2 consecutive good seasons in his career, which is why he's bounced around the way that he has. You know, his rookie season was really good. Then they fired the head coach in his rookie season, after that season rather, and promoted at the advice of Baker Mayfield, they promoted Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator, to head coach, and that was a disaster. Freddie Kitchens was way in over his head and way over his skis. I don't think he's coached in the NFL since that season. It was so bad. And Bake was terrible. You know, he was smelling himself. He started taking on a leadership role that he wasn't ready for. Nobody was stopping him, including the coach. It was a mess. And so was Baker's season. Then the third season came when Kevin Stefanski got there, because it was one and done for Freddie Kitchens. And Stefanski came in and changed everything. Won NFL head coach of the year in his first year. Went to the playoffs. They won a playoff game on the road at Pittsburgh. Baker was outstanding. Almost went to Kansas City the following week, if you recall, and won that game. If not for a fumble down by the end zone and a couple of, things happening here and there, they win that game. And everybody thinking, here comes Baker. Here he goes. He's proven why he was the number 1 overall pick. And then the next year happened. He had injuries. He didn't play well. He turned it over a whole hell of a lot. And we went, oh, yuck. And just like that, it was over in Cleveland for Bate. And then he went on this long hiatus. You know, he demanded a trade in the offseason before his contract was to expire. And Panthers traded for him. That didn't work. That was a bad situation. He got there too late. He needed to get there a lot sooner than he did to really digest the playbook. It didn't work out there. They move on from him. Excuse me. He ends up in LA, I believe, with the Rams, has that crazy finish to the season. And Tampa Bay comes calling, and Dave Canales gets the job as the OC, and they make beautiful music together, and Baker sets career highs across the board. And now, again, in his career, he's going to have change yet again. And it's right after the success, the playoff win, etc. He's due to get a contract, right? He's a free agent. Most people think he's going back to Tampa, but he's going back to what exactly? Who's going to be his offensive play caller? Is he going to be able to duplicate the same success? Mike Evans may not be there. There could be a ton of change. I feel bad for Bake because it just feels like this is going to happen to him again, where he has all this success and you think everything's moving in the right direction, and boom, the rug is pulled from under you. You got to start all over from scratch, and he could struggle again. And if he doesn't get that multi-year deal, right, and it's not set up to where they can't just get out and dump him after a year or two, it could be one and done for Bake in terms of success. This year could suck, and they could be like, you know what? We want to get out of the Bake business. We'll see what happens. The next loser is Dave Canales. And while this isn't totally fair to Dave, because he's truly winning in this situation, he wasn't going to get a head coaching gig. And these opportunities don't present themselves every day, every week, every month, every year, right? You can't turn this down if you get an opportunity, even if you may not be ready. You can't turn it down if you're not that guy. Like Ben Johnson last year could turn down an opportunity to be a head coach. Why? Because he knew he was going to be a head coach very soon. Like he was a hot commodity. Dave Canales isn't in that category. So they could have struggled this year. They could have regressed, and nobody's talking about Dave Canales, right? So strike while the iron's hot, but you're going to Carolina with an owner that has fired his last two head coaches within a 10-month span. He's had 3 coaches in the last 10 months, if you count interim head coach Steve Wilkes, who probably should have gotten a job. He's had 4 coaches, in 10 months, because he's fired 2 coaches in season each of the last 2 seasons. And so the patience is clearly not there. He's throwing drinks on fans because of his frustration. Yeah, he gave you a 6-year deal to try to make you feel comfortable, but he has no problems, as he's already shown. He's paying 2 different coaches right now. He cares nothing about money. If he doesn't think you're good enough, he'll fire you after 2 years. If you don't fix Bryce Young, he'll probably fire you. If Bryce Young stinks that each of the next 2 years, you won't make it to year 3 of your contract. Now, again, not a bad thing. You're getting a 6-year deal, bro. You get this. Unlike players, your money is fully guaranteed. You'll see every single cent of that contract, whether you coach it or not. But you don't want to be in that position, right? No one wants to be fired. No one wants to have someone looking over their shoulder, being a helicopter owner. No one wants the pressure of, I better get this done or else, right? And you just got there. But you asked for this. I'm not mad at you for accepting this, but just know what comes with this. And then lastly, another really massive loser in all of this are the Panthers fans. I just feel bad for them. I really, truly do, because I know firsthand what they're enduring right now, what they're going through, and where they're heading. This is the bad part. They have no idea that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, it's going to get much worse. If this guy is who we think he is, and I hope for their sake he's not, and that he truly just wants to win and he's going to learn how to be patient and allow that process to play itself out. I hope that that actually is the case, and he's not one of these guys that people make excuses for when they say, oh, he just wants to win, and this guy's a turd like Daniel Snyder was, because everything right now points to this dude being a turd. And yes, he wants to win, but he has no clue about how to go about it. He's not remorseful for his actions or how he treats people. And he's very impatient and impulsive. And if these things continue and he's picking the players and he's, having this, he's fostering this culture of backstabbing like we heard about this year, where coaches were, one-upping each other and positioning themselves to make sure that they survived. It was the survival of the fittest. If that's the kind of environment that he's cultivating, then he's Dan Snyder Jr. And you are in for a very, very long, dark, cold, harsh road ahead of you. And it sucks bad. I hope for your sake that none of that occurs and that Dave Canales is a hit. He's a home run. Bryce Young turns it around and all of a sudden you're playing great football. I'm hoping for that. But if it doesn't happen, it only gets worse from here. Anyway, I digress. Raheem Morris to the Atlanta Falcons. Winners in this situation. Start with Raheem Morris. This is a guy that has been paying for past sins for the better part of a decade. This is a guy that got a head coaching job way sooner than he was ready for it. And he was a byproduct of Mike Tomlin. Honestly, Tomlin's success, young brother that can coach defense. Damn, he looks like a carbon copy. Let's get him, right? It's the whole Sean McVay theory, right? You know the NFL is a copycat league. Sean McVay, young, innovative, offensive mind. Let's go get us one of those. And then we saw Matt LaFleur, and we saw Zach Taylor, and we saw Cliff Kingsbury, and anybody that had any connection to Sean McVay getting a job, right? Because everybody was looking for the next Sean McVay. Well, he got hired at the time when everybody was looking for the next Mike Tomlin. He had just won a Super Bowl with the Steelers. He was the youngest coach in NFL history, and he was winning and winning big in Pittsburgh, and those two coached together in Tampa. And so, yeah, they were like, hey, this Raheem Morris guy. Did they coach together in Tampa? I'm not sure if they did or not. I think their paths did cross back in the day. I think they did. But everybody's like, oh, this Raheem Morris guy, he might be the next Mike Tomlin. He gets the job in Tampa, and it started out well, and then it didn't go well. And I think his second year, they lost something like 14 straight, 12, 13 or 14 straight games to end the season, and he got fired. And everybody said the same thing. Really nice guy, smart, very personable. But it just didn't work, right? So it took him roughly a decade to fight his way all the way back up the food chain. Man's coached on both sides of the football, defense and offense, been in multiple stops, including Atlanta before, right? He went to Atlanta as a defensive coach, left Atlanta as an offensive coach, right? He's been around the block multiple times, went to the Rams. I'm always leery, and we'll get to the Rams here in a second, but I'll just say this. I'm always leery when somebody tries to oversell me on something. You've met that salesman before, and they're damn good at their job. You go to Tire Discount, and you just need them to fix one of your flat tires. And they're like, hey, not only can I fix that tire for you, I can guarantee the life of that tire. If anything happens to it, we'll replace it. And we can also do the same for all 4 of your other tires. All you got to do is pay $89.95 extra on top of what you already paying for us to fix this tire. And we'll just make sure that those tires are fine for the life of their careers on your car. If anything happens to them, you bring them here, we'll fix them. And you're like, damn, if I get another flat, you'll fix it for free, no charge? Yep. Sounds like a good deal to me. Sign me up, right? Got him. That's what he's saying in his head. Got him. I saw Les Snead on his phone talking about how valuable of a coach Raheem Morris was. And he's like, anybody that, I'm like, he says, I never do this, by the way. That's always how you start something that you do all the time, right? I never do this, by the way. That's not always the case, but when you want something, that's how you start it. I never do this, by the way. And then he proceeds to talk about Raheem Morris and how good of a coach he is and how he's been, an asset to them for all these years that he's been there. They wouldn't have won the Super Bowl without him and this, that, and the third. I'm like, and all of these things may be true. But I said, Les, I see right through your shit, man. I see right through it, bruh. I know what you after. And I don't like it right now. And I'm actually really uncomfortable and I feel dirty and I need a bath. Stop right now. And so the next biggest winner are the Los Angeles Rams. They were selling Raheem Morris like Obama was selling hope back in 2012. The shit was nasty, bro. I mean, it was some nasty work. Wait, what was that? 2008 Obama was selling hope, right? Hope and change. It was a hell of a campaign by the Rams. And it worked out. I mean, they even got the players in on it. Jalen Ramsey's like, hey, I ain't even trying to get into no tampering or nothing like that. But, I know myself and a lot of other players, we would love to go wherever Raheem ends up. We would love to go play for him. Like he's the best coach I've ever had. I was like, yeah, that's what's up, man. That's dope. Or whatever. And the Rams, they get they get 2 third-round picks for this, right? They get one this year and they get one next year because a minority coach was hired off of their staff. Everybody wants a minority coach hired off of their staff, or everybody wants a minority front office member hired by someone else because you get some assets for that shit. That's why they were selling Raheem so damn hard this offseason. Hey, look, man, you would be lucky to get Raheem. I'm telling you, man, this guy's a hell of a coach. And I'm not saying that that's not true. I've heard that from everybody to a man that Raheem Morris is one of the best coaches in the NFL, one of the most likable guys. He knows the ins and outs, the X's and O's, but more so than that, he's a leader of men. I've heard that. I don't doubt that. But the way you were selling it, you really wanted those 2 third-round picks now, didn't you? You got them. You're a winner in all of this. Feel good about it. Lastly, the Atlanta Falcons. They won. They won in this. Because they're getting a guy that I think could recruit other players to come want to play. First of all, Atlanta is already an attractive destination. People want to be in Atlanta. People want to come to the Falcons. There's talent there, right? They just got to find the quarterback. But above all else, if you have a coach that players around the league gravitate towards, he's going to be able to recruit guys, almost like a college recruiter. He'll be able to recruit some free agents to come that otherwise might not have given Atlanta the time of day. So I think it is a win for the Atlanta Falcons. They still need a quarterback, but I think with the talent that they have, guys like Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London, there's some talent there to be cultivated. And I think Raheem Morris is the right guy to cultivate that talent. So I think that's a good look for them. And then lastly, losers. There's only one really. One and a plus, right? That's Bill Belichick and his crew. So Bill is the biggest loser, and then he's got like a couple of plus ones. So I guess it would be like a +2, I guess. We'll get to the +2 here in a second, but let's start with Bill. I knew this would happen with Bill Belichick. Once he couldn't work out in agreement to stay in New England with the Patriots, I saw this coming from a mile away. And when I was talking to Washington fans about Bill Belichick, I said, here's the problem with Bill Belichick, which is why he won't be here. He's going to want control. You can't take control away from a guy who has had it for 2 decades and then say, hey, that's like taking somebody who's lived in a mansion for 25 years, stripping them of all money, and then saying, hey, you got to go live in this 1-bedroom apartment, bro. But it's like a studio, so it's dope, though. They're like, bro, what the F is this? Where are all of my amenities? I can't get jiggy with this shit. When you are in charge of everything, and it's a coach-centric approach, you have your thumbprint on every single nook and cranny that has to do with that organization. From the janitorial staff all the way until, who's picking the players, et cetera, et cetera. When he was talking with the Patriots and they were like, hey, Bill, you might be able to stay here, but if you're going to stay here, we're going to have to take some of this power from you, bro. He was like, I mean, I'm willing to give up some. I mean, how much power y'all talking about taking? They was like, I thought y'all told Bill. I thought you told him. I didn't tell him. I thought you was going to tell him. Look, Bill, we're going to have to take all of it, man. All of the power? I don't get to spend the money no more. No, Bill, you don't get to. I don't get to draft the players. No, Bill, you don't get to draft the players no more. I just coach them. That's it. Just like every other coach in the league, Bill, you just coach them. Yeah, that's a hard pass for me. I'm a go. All right. We thought you'd feel that way. Good luck, Bill. And he thought he was just going to go out here and finesse somebody like, hey, look, man, I'm Bill. Like, sort of like Coach Boyu. Just show him the rings, right? And tell him to get out of here. Tisk, tisk, get out of here, right? Bill Belichick, bitch. And the Falcons were desperate. Like, that was the dude who 28-3 them. They were like, yo, if you can't beat them, join them, right? They were excited. Arthur Blank was like, yeah, this is the guy that's going to change everything for us. And Bill showed up with a list of demands. And Blank started looking at this list. He was like, hey, we already got a GM, right? Terry Fontenot, did you meet him? He was like, nah, but me and Terry could be really good friends. And Terry was behind them having a conversation. And Arthur Blank looked back at Terry, and Terry's like, Arthur was like, yeah, no, we got a GM. We got an assistant GM too. Kyle Smith, he's really good. We like our setup. And Bill was like, yeah, about that setup. If I come in here, I'm gonna bring all my dudes with me, and when I mean my dudes, I mean I'm bringing everybody, front office dudes too, I'm moving in, right? Like I gotta bring all my stuff with me. They was like, Bill, come on, man, you got to be reasonable here, bro. Like we already got a setup. We weren't looking for a coach-centric thing, right? We just wanted a coach. Like I thought you said you were okay with that. He's like, I was okay with that in New England. But this is Atlanta. You don't have a Super Bowl. Like, there's no history here. I'm trying to bring you a Lombardi. Work with me here, baby. Come on. And they were like, yeah, we'll get back to you, Bill. He was like, yeah, y'all do that. Y'all got my line, right? Y'all hit me. And they was like, yo, get every candidate that's available in here for an interview. Stat. They went through the list like 3 times, ran through all them joints like 3 times and was like, yo, which one y'all feeling the most? Terry was like, yo, I really like Raheem, man. Kyle was like, yeah, I think Raheem's the best. Belichick called him like, yo, what's up? I thought y'all said y'all was going to hit my line. He's like, yeah, Bill, we decided to go in another direction, man. I just felt like you were asking for a little too much. He was like, all right, your loss. And so they went with Raheem Morris. But I'm like, Bill, bro, you 72. Like, you can't sit out a year. This ain't like when, you know what I'm saying, a coach doesn't get hired in a cycle, or they just take a year off like Sean Payton did when he retired, right? Or, Mike Shanahan took a year off after he was fired from Denver. Like, those dudes weren't 72 years old. Pete Carroll can't take a year off and then come back next year. Bro, Buddy's 73 years old. You can't take a year off when you're in your 70s. You got to go straight into the next job. You can't take a year off. Like, Bill, you was tripping, bro. And maybe, you know what? Bill maybe just needs to sit his ass down. Friends know when to say when. Maybe it's over. Maybe it's over, bro. The other losers, those plus ones that I was talking about, who's hiring Steve Belichick? Like, Bill is a package deal. So if Steve Belichick wants a job with his mullet, he needs his dad to have a job first. And if nobody else is touching Josh McDaniels with a 10-foot pole after the shit he's done for the second time, like, he's like damaged goods to the umpteenth degree at this point. The only way he gets work is if Bill Belichick is employed. Well, now he doesn't have a job. People are relying on you, depending on you for their income, Bill. How could you? Anyway, those are your biggest losers in this Atlanta thing. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. We'll switch gears and go to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know how we do it here on the Louie T Network podcast. So let's jump into the comment section, see what y'all talking about. Take a few comments, and then we'll get to garbage time and wrap this puppy up. We start with King of the Bluegrass. Greatly appreciate you, King of the Bluegrass. You know what it is. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, King of the Bluegrass, writes, "What up, Luke? What's up, King of the Bluegrass? Why doesn't the Steelers hire Greg Roman? So why don't the Steelers hire Greg Roman? Trade for Justin Fields. It seems like a perfect fit for Mike Tomlin's coaching philosophy. Then they have all they need to see from Kenny Pickett." That's not a bad plan, honestly, King of the Bluegrass. Like, you should pitch that to Mike Tomlin. If I run into Mike Tomlin this offseason, he usually does a charity event back home in the 757. If I run into Mike, I'm going to pitch it to him. Pretty sure by the time he gets to that charity event, they would have already made the decisions that are going to be big ones, like the offensive coordinator that they're going to hire and whether they trade for Justin Fields or not. But that's a hell of an idea. I second that. That's one of the best ideas I've heard all offseason, to be honest with you. Trade for Justin Fields, because the Bears are going to trade him, and go get Greg Roman. Your receivers ain't going to eat. And if you really think that George Pickens is a problem now, wait till he gets Greg Roman, and he's never getting a football. Pat Fryermuth to eat. The Washington kid from Darnell Washington from Georgia, he'll eat, right? Those tight ends will be, they'll be in business, but those wide receivers, boy, they'll be starving over there. Belly touching their backs. But those tight ends will be fat, boy. Najee will be looking good. I like the other running back they got, Jalen Warren. Those boys will eat good in that system. I honestly think that's a great idea. They're not going to do it, though. But that's a great idea. I think you're on to something. They've seen enough from Kenny Pickett. The fact that they didn't go back to him at the end of last season and they stuck with the hot hand tells you all you need to know about how they feel about Kenny Pickett now. They'll go back to Kenny if they don't do anything at the quarterback position this year and trading for Fields or somebody, or going and getting a Russell Wilson or whatever. They'll go back to Kenny Pickett. They invested a first round pick in him, but they've seen enough to know that he's a mid NFL quarterback. He's like Mitchell Trubisky. So I think they already know what they have there in him. Wilfredo Elias, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Wilfredo, writes, "Lou, you the GOAT." I appreciate you, Wilfredo. Says, "Looking forward to watching my future head coach win the NFC. I'm on team Drake May personally, but I trust Peters more than I do myself. LOL. When can we make some draft prospect requests? So we'll get to that process and that point. I told you that I'm going to start that process next week. I assume that early next week we will have the announcement of the head coaching hire for the Commanders. And once that's in the rearview mirror, and I expect that to be early in the week, I will start working vigorously on the quarterbacks. Once we get through the quarterbacks, I'll probably turn it over to you guys and we can go from there, right? Like, don't be giving me Southwest Saginaw State Valley, wide receiver James McToney. Like, oh man, I'm telling you, this dude's a sleeper in the 18th round. Like, don't like, we're not doing that, right? Let's be real here. Normally, I have a list of prospects that I want to get to prior to the draft anyway, but it's every year somebody wants to be the one to say, I told y'all about this dude, man. I told y'all about this guy, that goes to the tiniest school you've ever heard of. And like, yeah, I'm trying to tell y'all this dude going to be a beast. And then he doesn't get drafted and doesn't make it in the NFL. And of course, that person's not going to go back and say, I was wrong. But let that guy get drafted in the 5th round and end up being a beast. I told y'all. Like, everybody wants to be that guy. Don't be that guy. Okay? Don't be that guy. Anyway, I digress. Thank you for that super chat, Wilfredo Elias. All right. We'll get to a couple of comments. Derek B writes, Vrabel would be a coup at defensive coordinator with his experience if no head coaching job, especially if he brings Chris Harris back home. Chris Harris can be the DC if Vrabel leaves after 1 year. So what I told myself is in the future, I would listen to fans of other teams that have experienced coaches. And Titans fans have already told me you don't want Mike Vrabel as your defensive coordinator. So good luck with that. I trust him. He was there for 6 years. If they tell me you don't want him as a DC, I don't want him as a DC. I'll pass. And another thing, I don't want a guy that's going to potentially leave in 1 year. I made that abundantly clear. What I really would prefer is one of these vets like a Steve Spagnuolo that I know ain't going nowhere. That's what I really want. One of these Leslie Frazier cats that's going to be my coordinator for the next 5 to 7 years. Easy. That's what I really want. I don't want a guy that is just using this as a stepping stone. This ain't Mississippi State. Don't be using me to get the Alabama job. All right. I'm not Oklahoma State. Don't be using me to get the Oklahoma job. Right. I'm good. And I don't want Chris Harris as my defensive coordinator. I'd like him as my defensive backs coach. We'll see if he gets a job or not. But I'm good. I'm actually really good on Mike Vrabel. If he's not the head coach, that's how good of a cycle this was. And I kept telling people this. It's such a good cycle that Bill Belichick, in past years, Belichick would have been at the top of the list. Vrabel would have been right under him. No way we go through the entire cycle and neither one of those dudes gets a job. No way the last 5 to 7 years. Crazy to think that these guys wouldn't get a job. They're both going to end up getting shut out of this thing. If Vrabel, and I said this when I did my list, the best hire for Vrabel is Seattle. He'd go there and he'd win 11 games next year. That's the perfect place for him. But I haven't heard anything about Vrabel to Seattle. Doesn't mean that that's not still on the table. But Quinn seems like more of their guy than it does Vrabel, right? But we'll see. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB video channel. Writes, Lou. What's up, video channel? Gotta go off base for a minute, but have you been checking out Fabulous's new freestyles on his YouTube page? Also, Bill should just retire, in my opinion. No, I haven't been checking out his YouTube. I didn't even know he had a YouTube channel, to be honest with you. But we already know he can flow. We already know what he's about. I was a big Fabulous fan back in the day. Back when CDs were in circulation. I still have a couple of those in my CD case. We'll talk about that another time. But no, I maybe I should check that out. Bill should retire, I believe. I think it's over. He had a hell of a run. And he's got nothing to be ashamed of. I think he can't tarnish his legacy any more than he already has. I don't think. But let's not find out. That's how I feel. Like, we went through this debate. Was it Tom Brady or was it Bill Belichick? I think we came to the conclusion that it was both. But I think after Brady went to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl without him, it kind of felt like Shaq and Kobe. Like, Shaq left and won a championship, and Kobe was like, yo, I got to get a chip or else they're going to say it was Shaq, right? It was more Shaq than Kobe. I can't allow that to happen. Bill wants that opportunity to prove everybody wrong and say, nah, it was both of us, but it wasn't more Tom than it was me. But he could do further damage. Right? It was ugly in New England without a quarterback. And that's why I felt like he needed to go somewhere where there was already an established quarterback. They don't have a quarterback in Atlanta, so I didn't love it. And I told you what he had said. He wanted to go somewhere where it was a fixer-upper. He wanted to be held in that high regard. He wanted people saying, oh, my God, Bill Belichick saved us. He's got that complex where he needs to feel needed. So I'm kind of glad it didn't work out for him in Atlanta. I think he just needs to go home. But we'll see what he decides to do. He had a hell of a run. Right now, people view him as the greatest head coach in NFL history. Just leave it like that. He had a hell of a run. Let's see. NES Tecmo writes, and then there were two. Happy for Raheem Morris. I think the Las Vegas Raiders hired the DB coach from the Jets. Wanted him after your DC breakdown. The DB coach from the Jets. I don't know who that is. The DB coach from the Jets. I don't know who that is. Now, I know one of the dudes on the list that I gave you did coach DBs for the Jets at one point. Denard Wilson but he was in Baltimore. Just know that the Raiders are about to fill that whole stable up with brothers. Did you see Mark Davis posing on Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Yeah, they about to fill that whole cabinet up with brothers and sisters. They already got a sister in the front office. It's about to be Chocolate City in that bad boy. It's going to be a good look for a lot of young coaches that's looking for a come up. This is your opportunity. We ain't got many of them that's going to make sure you get work and give you an opportunity to come up in the game. Take advantage. You know, Tomlin been trying to put people on, but I don't think Tomlin been putting enough dudes on. But I really admire Tomlin for making sure Brian Flores didn't get blackballed, because if Tomlin didn't save him, that brother was done. So it's important to keep brothers employed, because they got to make sure that they can extend that life raft to other brothers. Like, I remember a time when Wayne Fonts and Denny Green were head coaches, and where you think Tony Dungy came from, right? Where you think all of these brothers that ended up being really good coaches in the league came from? There were trees. Tony Dungy made sure he reciprocated that energy. Where you think Mike Tomlin came from? Where you think Raheem Morris came from? Like, you got to keep brothers employed so that they can keep the party going, right? So they can continue to pass it down and pay it forward. And I think Antonio Pierce is going to do a hell of a job doing that. I really do. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. Inc. writes, with the potential of two young quarterbacks coming into the NFC, Washington versus Chicago rivalry could be intriguing. Mahomes versus Burrow of the NFC. Playoff games would be lit. Also, Daniels has a noodle arm. We'll see. You know, I don't really know. We'll see what happens with, you know, any rivalries or anything like that. We don't know if any of these guys are going to be any good. You know, we'll find out. I can't talk about Jaden Daniels. I don't think his arm is the biggest, but you don't have to have a Josh Allen arm to be successful. Joe Burrow doesn't have a massive arm, but what he does have is an arm that can get the ball to every level, and he has great anticipation. As long as you anticipate your arm, Peyton Manning does not have and never has had a strong arm. But what he had was elite anticipation. When you have elite anticipation, you can put the football anywhere, along with accuracy, of course. You can put the football anywhere on the football field. So we'll see. And Jaden Daniels can throw the football plenty far. I know there are a lot of deep balls that I've seen that have come up short. There are a lot of deep balls that I've seen that are right on the money. So, when I have a chance to sit down and watch him, we'll assess the situation and see how everything turns out. Got a super here from King of the Bluegrass. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, King of the Bluegrass. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, funny, Lou. Hollywood Brown, Crabtree flourished in Roman's system. Did they really? Crabtree was all right. I wouldn't say he flourished. He was all right. I definitely wouldn't say Hollywood Brown flourished because Hollywood Brown ended up out of Baltimore. So if he really flourished, he would have been in Baltimore. They would have kept him and they would not have traded him to Arizona. So I wouldn't say flourished. I'd say specifically Crabtree might be, there's an argument to be had there for Michael Crabtree, right? Hollywood Brown, no bueno. That one's no bueno. Crabtree, maybe, but flourished that's a strong word. Let's tone that down a bit. That's flourished is akin to thrive. It's a little strong for a receiver in a Greg Roman system. Let's say he survived. He was living in that system. I think that's accurate. Maybe he thrived sometimes. Maybe, just maybe. Mike Jink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mike Jink writes, think we got a shot at Alt or Bowers, Big Lou? Bowers, yes. Alt, no. I don't. I think he'll be gone. But I think Bowers will fall right into your wheelhouse. Do you really need another tight end, though? Maybe you do. I mean, what's better than 1, 2? So, yeah, Bowers will be there, I think. Alt, probably not. Probably. After the quarterbacks go, the next thing to go is going to be them tackles. Because that's how the league works. And being that there's no elite edge rushers, like Dallas Turner is probably going to be the highest edge rusher. He probably ain't coming off the board till around 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. These tackles going first. So after the quarterbacks, tackles will probably be next thing to go. Let's see. I think I'll take 2 more comments potentially, and then we got time, depending on how long we go on those comments. We'll take another one. If not, then we will move on to garbage time. Mike Lowry writes, everything is coming together finally. I knew Ben was the guy when they hired Rick Spielman. His brother works with Detroit now, so the seed been planted. People started connect. That's why I hate the internet, but I also love the internet. Because those detectives be hard at work, man. While we sleeping and catching Z's, it's people up somewhere across the globe up working hard, right? So when you wake up the next morning, they done connected the dots for you. And when somebody was like, look, man, they went out and got Bob Myers because he's friends with Adam Peters and they went to UCLA. They didn't go together. They didn't overlap, but they both graduated from UCLA and they know each other and they're friends. And that's why he went out and got Bob Myers. And he went out, and because Rick Spielman and Bob Myers were 2 random ass dudes to add to your committee, right? Your advisory committee. They were 2 randos. Like, hey, he just said that he wanted to do with experience and he wanted a winner. And Bob Myers is a winner and Rick Spielman has a decade of experience as a GM. Fine. That's what you're telling me? Cool. But then we just start digging and you get the detectives on the case and you're like, hey, wait a minute. This shit is too good to be true. It all makes sense now. We're going to get our guys. That's what it's all about. I love it. And I love the fact that our owner was playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers. He had all this shit lined up while we were getting our asses kicked and everybody was mad because he wasn't doing nothing. Oh, he was doing some shit. He was putting all of this shit together and he was getting all his ducks lined up and he was making sure Adam Peters know we coming after your ass. They had already got all this shit set up. That's why it moved. You want to know why it moved so quick? That didn't happen because, oh, they just decided to move quick. No, they already had all their ducks lined up in a row. As soon as the season was done, they was ready to strike. That man be working. I love it. Love it. Let's see. Comasel Brown writes, Lou, scenario I thought about, what if Bears really want Caleb and MHJ? Would they give us their number 9 and 1 next year, or 9 Fields and a 1 next year? Your thoughts? That you would be assuming that we want Fields. We don't want Fields. And you would also be assuming that we don't want any of the quarterbacks. Because in order to take Fields, you got to like Justin Fields more than you like any of the 2 quarterbacks that are left after they take Caleb Williams. And then you have to also tell yourself, we believe in Justin Fields so much so that we're going to pick up the 5th-year option because he's at the end of his rookie deal, essentially. You know, when you have to make a decision on picking up the 5th-year option, it means you're at year 4. So you only have 2 years left if you pick up the 5th-year option. If you don't pick up the 5th-year option, you only got 1 year left. Whereas you could draft one of these young boys, and now you got 4, potentially 5 years if you pick up the 5th-year option to figure out if this guy can play. And if he's really good and he identifies himself as a baller early, 3 years in, you can get that deal done going into year 4, right? Pick up the 5th-year option and continue to work on that and get that deal done, right? So you push that clock out if you draft one of these young quarterbacks. If you trade for Justin Fields, you got to come up off that bread ASAP. Like, who's trying to do that? So, no, I don't see that happening. You're at 2 for a reason. You're going to take a quarterback. Again, as I've explained before, you don't plan on being back up this high again. The plan is to never be bad enough to be drafting 2nd overall. So you got to take the quarterback while you're there. That's what they're going to do. All right. Let's see. All right. I think I hit all the comments for the most part. Yeah, I did. HTTC writes, why were people trying to push Belichick off on us? Because we had a new owner. They felt like he was, they kept saying he was smitten with Belichick and he wanted to win. And really because they had to push Belichick off on one of the openings. So this was the thing. Belichick was going to be out. Everybody knew it during the season. And there are only 3 openings already when the season was done. Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, right? Unless he was going to the Chargers, he wasn't going to the Raiders, and he wasn't going to the Panthers. So unless he was going to the Chargers, the only other place that you knew was going to fire their coach was Washington. That was like an opening, even though it wasn't open. So that was the one that everybody said, oh, well, yeah, he's got ties to the area. His dad was used to live. He grew up in Annapolis, right? His dad coached at which one of those? Was it Navy? Right? I think it was the Naval Academy his dad coached at. And his dad, I think Belichick and his dad, one of them, I think it was Belichick, might have started out with the Baltimore Colts or something. Somebody had something to do with the Baltimore Colts. Either way, Belichick grew up in this area, and so there were ties to the DC area, the DMV, and that's why his name kept getting brought up here. But everybody that works in the area had already said there's no truth to that. And I told you guys, ain't no way that Harris is going after Bill Belichick. That doesn't make any sense because Belichick's going to want power, and they're not giving it to him. That's why he tried to go somewhere and finesse a team like Atlanta that he thought he could go in there and flex his muscles on. And they won't having that shit neither. This is the last one, and then we'll get to the last segment of the show. Legendary One writes, How do you feel about this narrative that Lamar means more to Baltimore at this point than Ray Lewis? Because I'm lost for words. So what you got to understand is, Baltimore. Ray Lewis is a Baltimore icon. What he did for that team and the area and all that stuff. But you also got to remember, Ray Lewis does not have the cleanest of pass, right? And Lamar has always been in the community. They love him in Baltimore. Love Lamar. And it's hard for a position player to trump a quarterback. It just is. Quarterbacks hit different. And so Lamar Jackson, if he wins a Super Bowl, watch his star rise. Watch how much he means to Baltimore then, right? It's easy to dismiss him because he hasn't won anything yet, but he's had such a profound impact. They changed their whole franchise to fit his skill set. They changed who they were fundamentally, created a whole different animal and monster in the shape and image of Lamar Jackson. And now he's grown and they've been able to expand on that. And now they've become a bully. And if he is able to lead and stay healthy, that's the most important part for him. It's just staying healthy. Because when he's healthy, he wins. Similar to Joe Burrow. Just stay healthy, bro. You win when you're healthy. Just stay healthy. If he does that, watch what Lamar Jackson could do. He could win the Super Bowl this year. It don't have to be his only Super Bowl. He can win it again. The Ravens are good every year. The Ravens are one of the best run organizations in football. So, yeah, Ray Lewis won 2 Super Bowls. He, much like Peyton's second Super Bowl, he ain't have a lot to do with that second Super Bowl. The defense was trash that year. Ray Lewis was on his last legs. He just hung on for that last Super Bowl. He didn't do nothing. That first one was on his back, though, him and the defense. And they're forever indebted to him for that. But let Lamar win a Super Bowl. That narrative that's Ray, like Ray will always be a figure in Baltimore. Always. That'll never change. But Lamar's that dude. And a quarterback always trumps a linebacker. Let Lamar win a chip. That narrative will change real quick. All right, let's go ahead, get to our final segment and garbage time. And that's these championship games on Sunday, championship Sunday. So I think we got it right in terms of producing the best matchups that these conferences could have produced. I think had we seen Buffalo get into the AFC Championship instead of Kansas City, I think Baltimore would have wiped the floor with them because the Bills defensively aren't good enough to stop Lamar Jackson consistently in that game. And I think Baltimore's defense would have been good enough to, get into Josh Allen a little bit, force him into a mistake or two. I think they could have ran those boys. They're not running Kansas City. First of all, Kansas City has a distinct advantage over every single team they play in the playoffs because they're Kansas City. Sort of like how New England always had an advantage over everybody, probably except Baltimore, who wasn't afraid of them. But everybody, when New England showed up, was like, oh, it's New England. Oh, it's New England. Like people whisper, it's the Patriots. Oh, shit. Right? Like that's how it is with Kansas City. When they show up, ultimate respect is shown because these boys get it done. And a lot of times, like Mike Tyson back in the day in his prime, before the bell even rings, they already got your heart, right? They already took your soul and your spirit, your will to win. You already shook. Baltimore is not going to be shook. They're not going to be scared, but there is a level of respect that they're going to show Kansas City that they would not have shown Buffalo. And that defense that Kansas City has is good enough to shut Lamar's ass down. I don't think they will, but it's going to be a chess match. It ain't going to be Lamar out here running wild for 100 yards and throwing for 150 like he did against the Texans and accounting for 4 touchdowns. That shit ain't happening. I'm not saying that Lamar won't play well. I'm just telling you, he ain't duplicating that shit. Them Colin Kaepernick numbers against Green Bay. Them crack numbers. That shit ain't happening. And in the NFC, these are the 2 best teams in the NFC. You know, we've proven already that Dallas and Philadelphia won't buy a damn thing. So these are the 2 best teams. This is the best matchup. Could you imagine if, like, the worst thing that could have happened to the NFL would have been like, because really it don't matter who make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC. The NFL is good with that. But can you imagine if it would have ended up being like Buffalo and Detroit in the Super Bowl or some shit like that? Oh my God. It would have been the worst for the NFL. If Detroit makes it, that's not good for the NFL, just from a rating standpoint. People are going to watch, but there's a lot of people that are going to watch if the 49ers are in because they're a blue blood, right? And that's a massive market that you include. If San Francisco don't make it to the Super Bowl, a lot of their fans aren't going to watch the Super Bowl. They're going to be hurt. They're not watching the Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. But there'll be a lot of people rooting for Detroit. You know, it's human nature to root for the underdog, for the team that's never been to the Super Bowl, for the team that's never won the Super Bowl. There are a lot of 49ers. I didn't realize how many 49ers haters there were out there, but I digress. At the end of the day, let's start with the AFC Championship game. That's the first one at 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. You've got the 1-seeded Ravens hosting the 3rd-seeded Kansas City Chiefs. Boy, this is going to be a great game. Man, this has got classic written all over it. If this thing goes according to script, Lamar Jackson's going to win the MVP trophy. All right, 2nd one in his career. This is his first AFC Championship game. Can you believe it? This is the first time in Ravens. This is another reason that legendary one. You want to know why Lamar is so revered? Ray Lewis, and again, he's not in control of the offense. Ray Lewis never led the Ravens to a home AFC Championship game. Again, that's not his fault that he didn't play with a great quarterback. I'm just telling you, like, these are things that Lamar has under his belt. These are things that he's done that no other Raven has done, right? Lamar's going to win his 2nd MVP. I know it's hard for a linebacker to win the MVP, but he's doing things that no other Raven has ever done, right? And I get it. Ray Lewis is huge, but Lamar is a different animal, right? And so he's going to win this MVP. And this is going to be his biggest test of the season. They've been mopping the floor with all the competition. They've beat 11 teams with winning records this season, the most in NFL history in a single season. And a lot of those 11 victories have come by multiple scores. Like, these aren't close games. They 56-19 in teams. They 34-10 in teams, 25-9 in teams, 33-19 in teams, 38-6 in teams. Like, they busting dudes over the head. They're not doing that shit to Kansas City. Okay. This ain't going to be 34-10 like it was last week. This is a different animal. And I think the Chiefs are taking it personal that they got to go on the road and people are counting them out. Like, it's not often that Mahomes is an underdog. He's an underdog. They take that stuff personal. And I'm just going to tell you, I don't know who all is going to play for Kansas City. If their linebackers are going to play, if Willie Gay is going to play, if they're going to have a healthy stable of guys. But if they have their nucleus, if Drew Tranquil and all those guys that can run, they're going to make it tough on Lamar. They're going to make it tough on Lamar. It is going to be imperative that the Ravens run the football successfully, because the Chiefs gave up a lot of yards on the ground to the Bills last week. I was actually shocked at how well they ran the football, did the Bills. and how badly the Chiefs defended the run last week. But keep in mind, they haven't given up a 30-point performance this year. They haven't given up 300 yards passing to anybody this year. And they've been one of the top-notch defenses in the NFL. This is their stiffest test of the season as well. So it goes both ways. If they can slow down the Ravens' run game, force Lamar to have to beat them with his arm, and then when they get them into those long down and distances, don't let him run. Don't let him get 9 on 3rd and 6. Don't let him get 14 on 3rd and 8. You work too hard to get to 3rd and long to let him break you down with his legs. If they can control that and they get Mark Andrews back, that's a huge boost because Isaiah Likely was already hard to deal with. Now you get Andrews back to add with Isaiah Likely and all the receiver weapons that already exist. That's going to be brutal. But at the end of the day, I'm pulling for the Ravens, and I think they can win this game, but I learned a valuable lesson last week because you knew I was team Josh Allen and Bills are making it to the AFC Championship game and all of that shit. I learned a valuable lesson last week. Don't bet against Mahomes. He's the new Brady. They're the new Patriots. You want to kill them? Like, you can't shoot them once and be like, oh, yeah, I got him. Because you're going to go all the way down there to see where you shot him at, and the body won't be there. If you're going to kill them, you got to kill them. And they don't die easily. They die hard. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, man. I really think the Ravens going to win this game, but I don't have the balls. I got mine snatched right off the bone last week. Scrotum, all of it gone. I don't know how the Chiefs are going to go in there and get it done offensively. I still don't trust their offense, even though this is the part that has won me over. Their offense has looked the best that it's looked all season long the last 2 weeks. Sans for the Bears game in week 5, I believe it was. Their offense has looked dynamite the last 2 weeks. Specifically last week, you could argue is their best game of the season offensively. That's the shit you're doing going into the AFC Championship game? They might have finally figured it out. Chiefs win a low-scoring thriller, 23-20 on a late Harrison Butker field goal to give them the victory. Meanwhile, in the NFC Championship game, this one's going to surprise you. I told y'all this. I've seen this movie already. This is giving me flashbacks of 2021. And the Cincinnati Bengals. When they won against the Rams, I said, "Oh my God." Like I was like, I've seen this before. What is this? Why am I feeling like this? And then I went through my mental Rolodex and I'm flipping, and I found it, right? Here it is. This is why I've seen this before. Because it's happened before. 2021 Cincinnati Bengals. Team that hasn't won a playoff game since the early 90s. They're just happy to be there. Fans are going nuts. They win their first playoff game at home. Fans are feeling like they've won it all, right? Because they don't know what this feeling is like. So they go ape shit. Now, the Bengals didn't get another home playoff game. The Lions did. And so they got to experience it twice, right? And nobody thought that the Bengals were going to go to Arrowhead and win. Like, you're not going to Arrowhead and winning, right? Like, going to Tennessee and winning, that's one thing. Going to Arrowhead and winning, yeah, and they were down 21-3 in that game. And they came back, took it to overtime and won. If they can slow down Christian McCaffrey, this is the key. Green Bay, outside of one big run, And it was a big run. Okay. It was a big run. But outside of that one big run, they really slowed down Christian McCaffrey. And if Deebo Samuel, who is going to play in this game, I have no doubts he's going to play, but for how long? How effective will he be? If you can slow down McCaffrey and force Brock Purdy to beat you, and I'm not saying that he can't, because he's fully capable of doing so. And I don't trust this Lions defense at all. They've been awful in these playoffs. Aaron Glenn up for a coaching job, and his defense is getting cooked weekly. However, with that said, you put a little pressure on Brock Purdy, you slow down Christian McCaffrey. We've seen Brock Purdy do some very nasty shit with the football. Dangerous, even. Now, he's gotten away with it. But you keep living dangerously, and eventually, shit's going to catch up with you. I'm going to throw out this caveat, and this is probably me being a bitch-ass dude right now. I'm being a bitch-ass dude. And I don't like this bitch-assness from me, but hear me out. If the Lions slow down McCaffrey enough, and what is enough? He doesn't rush for over 100 yards and receiving wise. So he can have total yards over 100. Let's say he rushes 21 times for 83 yards. Okay. That's a solid game. It's over. That's roughly 4 yards a carry. Right. But he's not killing you. Okay. That's not 21 carries, 142 yards. That's not 21 carries, 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he's got 6 catches, because they're gonna throw it to him out of the backfield. But it's meager gains, like last week. He had like 7 catches for like 30-something yards. Right? Keep him to a minimum. Every time he catches it, you get him on the ground. One score he's allowed. One. Doesn't matter how he gets it through the air, on the ground. One score he's allowed. Anything more than that, you're asking for trouble. If they can hold Christian McCaffrey to under, I'll set it right here. They can hold Christian McCaffrey to under 130 yards of all-purpose offense and 1 touchdown. That's it. He's allowed 129 and a touchdown. Anything north of 129, they're going to lose the game. If they're able to keep him under 129 of total offense, he's allowed 1 touchdown. And Jared Goff, here's the other piece of this, doesn't turn it over. I know I'm asking a lot. But he's been flawless. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. 74% completion percentage right now in the postseason. He's playing his ass off. If he doesn't turn it over and they do that to McCaffrey, the Lions win this game. Those are the 2 stipulations. Because I already said the Lions are going to the Super Bowl, I'm going to stick with that prediction. But my head is like, bro, you tripping. It's going to be the 49ers and the Ravens. That's what it's always been. And that's probably what it's going to be. And I don't have any rooting interest here. Just want to see 2 good games. That's all I'm really looking for. But give me the Detroit Lions in a classic. Jared Goff does the unthinkable. This fairy tale story of Jared Goff, the redemption story, continues. Brock Purdy leads the 49ers down the field on a lead-changing drive. What is viewed at the time as the game-winning drive to put San Francisco up 24-20. Goff then gets the football back, 2:37 left. One timeout. And they go the length of the field. And with 17 seconds left, he finds rookie tight end Sam Laporta for the game-winning score. Lions go to the Super Bowl 27-24. That's crazy. That's not happening. That's wild. That ain't happening. It's going to be Ravens and 49ers, but those are my two picks. The two teams that I didn't pick are going to win. I'm just telling y'all right now. It's going to be Ravens and 49ers. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what it will be, but I'm going the opposite. I got the Chiefs winning 23-20 on a walk-off field goal. I got the Lions winning 27-24 on a Jared Goff, Sam Laporta touchdown with 17 seconds left. What the hell am I thinking? I don't know. I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I appreciate y'all kicking it with the kid on this Friday. What did I say something crazy? You know, I stay saying something wild and don't even realize it. And then I go to the Discord and they've chopped up another 6-second clip of me saying some crazy shit. Did I say something crazy and I was supposed to say pause and I didn't? Because I'm seeing a lot of comments like, whoa, Lou. What did I say? What did I say? I'm terrible, man. What did I say? What did I say, y'all? Somebody type it in there. If you have to, censor it. What did I say? Mike Lowry said he almost timed me out. Oh, I was that out of pocket, huh? Wow. I probably gotta go back and watch. I was that bad, huh? Yeah, I'm terrible, man. Anyway. But I was talking about myself though. I was talking about my own scrotum. I don't have to say pause if I'm talking about my own balls, right? I was talking about my own balls and scrotum though. I don't have to say pause. If I'm playing with myself, I don't have to say pause for that, right? This is going off the tracks now. This is going off the rails. This is not how this show was supposed to end. Let's get out of here before we go any further. Y'all get out of here. Have a great weekend and enjoy the festivities. We'll link back up on Sunday for the championship games. Should be a great one. A couple of really good games. I think both of them are going to be fantastic contests. If one turns out to be a blowout, it'll be the NFC game. If the Lions don't handle the environment, if Jared Goff doesn't play well early, it could spiral out of control on them very quickly. That crowd gets involved and the Lions could, fall victim and prey. We've seen them wilt against like Baltimore before where they went in there, got run early and the game was over in the first quarter, right? 28-0 at halftime. I'm not saying that will happen, but it could happen if they're not careful. I don't think it will happen, but I've seen Jared Goff crumble in some situations. So hopefully this is a different Jared Goff and we get ourselves a good ball game. That first one, that AFC Championship game is definitely going to be good. You can't convince me otherwise. Anyway, I digress. Y'all get out of here. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Y'all are stupid, man. I can't with y'all. Y'all have a good one, man. Get out of here. God bless and good night.